What is it that's holding you back, keeping you from becoming everything that God has created you to be, living your purpose and reaching your destiny? Is it self-doubt, feeling that you don't measure up to others? Perhaps it's fear or lack of resources, offenses and challenges, maybe even past or current circumstances. Well, I want you to know that these are pathologies, diseases of the mind that negatively impact how you think and perceive things that invade your everyday life. You can overcome these peculiarities and become conquerors, living in the purpose that God has for your life. The Bible in Philippians 4:13 teaches us, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Hello, I'm your coach, Dee Johnson, and I'm going to share with you on how you can overcome these pathologies and be all that God created you to be on today's Watering the Seed. Welcome back, Seeds, to another episode of Watering the Seed, where we empower people to live a better life. I'm Coach Dee Jackson, and today we're talking about what happens when life doesn't go our way. If you're new to the channel, welcome, welcome, welcome. We're so glad to have you join us. It absolutely hits home for many of our listeners because we've all had experiences with things that don't go the way we expected or the way we planned them, creating setbacks and great disappointment in many circumstances, making us feel as if we failed or did something to cause things to not work, in our favor or to go wrong. But what if I told you it's not failure, nor is it a setback? Seeds. Let's jump in and figure this out. So what happens when life doesn't go our way? Is it failure? Or is it God just switching up the playlist and saying, I've got the auxiliary cord, now trust me? This episode is called God's Got the Auxiliary Cord. It's about reroutes and redirection. And trust me, this one's going to hit home for most. Because all of us at some point has had plans that fell through, dreams that didn't line up, or doors that slammed shut right in our faces, leaving us confused, disoriented, and wondering why. Why did this happen to me? Let me tell you a story. The reason why I'm on this topic today is because my brother and I, we recently had a conversation. My brother was telling me about one of his friends who was trying to motivate to purchase a house for his growing family. He could easily afford the house, this friend, but became discouraged, worried about setbacks, about what if it doesn't work out. And my brother, being the motivating man that he is, responded to his friend by saying, listen, everybody fails. Everybody hits setbacks. But the problem occurs when you don't get back up. Now, I agree with my brother on the part about the resilience because we've got to get back up. But here's where we split. He called it a setback. It's not even a setback, it's redirection because God doesn't fail, remember? You see, Seeds, I believe when things don't go our way, it's not punishment. It's God turning the wheel, rerouting us towards something better. Like for instance, when your GPS says recalculating route, you might be annoyed by that, but it's still taking you where you need to go. My brother kept saying it's a setback for a setup. I kept responding, it's not a setback, it's divine. Went back and forth with this for a good while, explaining why we felt the way that we felt. And for me, growing up as a child in my parents' home, we were always taught that God didn't fail. There's no failure in God, not in the divine. There's no failure in God, not in the divine. And so that sat with me and it still sits with me today. So here's how I see it. The breakdown in perspective. My brother's angle. He's all message is classic. Setbacks are a part of growth. They build grit, discipline, and drive. You fall down 7 times, you get back up 8. Simple. Maybe difficult, but simple. My perspective is I don't even call it failure because how can I fail if God never fails? If I believe the divine orders my steps, then a closed door isn't failure for me. It's a redirect. God's protecting me, guiding me, setting divine order in. With that perspective, with those perspectives, who's right? Who's right? Well, some of my seeds may agree with my brother, while others may agree with me. But honestly, we're both right. We both are. You see, one is human grit, the other is spiritual trust. Put those together, it's unstoppable. Resilience keeps you moving, but faith keeps you aligned. Okay? Let's anchor this with the word of God. In Proverbs chapter 16 verse 9, it reads, "In their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps." I'll read it again. In their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. That's God saying, you can make plans all you want. We can make plans all we want. But the divine is the one holding the auxiliary cord, the support, the power. Okay? He's holding the For example, you tell your friend, my family is planning a trip outside of the country this fall for our 25th annual family reunion. But the weekend of the trip, when it comes up, a hurricane hits the area and all flights have been canceled. You may have because your trip was canceled, but then you turn on the news and the country that you and your family plan to celebrate your 25th annual family reunion, it's just been bombed and a war has broken out. Now, this story may sound grim, but Now, this story may sound grim, but there's a very similar story or situation that actually did happen in real life. And God rerouted the family steps, causing them to make adjustments to their original plan. This is a written, if you will. Scripture, Romans chapter 8:28 says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." Notice it doesn't say some things. It says all, even the things we thought were failures, even the detours, even the heartbreaks, they all work together for good. Now, I have a real life story. This is my own personal story. And it goes as follows. It was the holiday season. This was some years ago, more than 20 years ago. It was the holiday season and companies everywhere, they were throwing holiday parties. My best friend invited me to her company's holiday party, and I was really, really excited to go. I had a class after work that ended around 7 o'clock p.m., so the plan was to head out at her house. She would then drive us to the party. But my gut feeling told me, no, you drive. Because my friend hadn't had her driver's license very long, and she was not a seasoned enough driver to be driving at night and on the expressway, might I add. After work, and on the expressway, might I add. After work, I decided to stop home before heading off to class. When I got home, I suddenly started to feel weak, tired, sick. I sat on the bed, then I felt worse. I called my professor to say I couldn't make it to class. Then I let my friend know I might not be able to make the party either. She wasn't very happy about that, but I told her I'd keep her posted just in case I started to feel better. I ended up falling asleep and woke up around 8 o'clock p.m., which was quite a few hours later. I called her back and I told her I wouldn't make it because I didn't want to hold her up. And so she was really upset, clearly upset, not very and I really wasn't feeling well and I was getting progressively worse. So I hung up the phone and immediately went back to sleep. Around 11 o'clock p.m., I woke up again, burning with fever. I went to use the restroom and returned to the bed. The bed was hot as if I had a heating blanket on. And the floor where I had placed my feet to sit up on the side of the bed before going to the restroom, the carpet was still warm. That's how much fever was running through my body. I crawled back in bed, but in sleep, I turned on the television. Then, just past maybe midnight, my fever just instantly broke. One moment I felt terrible, the next it was like I'd never been sick. I thought to myself, what in the world is going on with me? I thought to myself, what in the world is going on with me? Not long after, my phone rang. It was my best friend calling from the hospital. She had been in an accident, a car accident, after leaving the party. Her car was totaled. After she lost control on the ramp, a car had spooked her and she lost control going over the side of the ramp um, and running into a tree. When I saw the picture, the photo of the car, the passenger side, the exact seat where I would have been sitting all the way to the driver's side seat. My friend was fine. She survived. She was just a little bruised, but more heartbroken because of the car. She had wrecked the car. But I knew in my heart of hearts, if I had gone with, but I knew in my heart of hearts, if I had gone with her, I wouldn't have made it out alive. I would not have survived that accident. The divine redirected me. So, God's reroutes and how to spot. This is how God reroutes us. Coincidences. Coincidences that feel too perfect or too good to be true. The divine may be signaling you not to trust it. Doors closing unexpectedly. That may be doors closing unexpectedly. That may be the divine protecting and preserving you for something better. And that gut feeling pulling you somewhere else, that gut feeling may be the divine whispering to you not to go. In my real life story, I ignored me not to go, or if I went to drive myself. That was the divine's whisper. But I continue with my plan. And this was more than 25 years ago, might I add, okay? So, God closed that door to God closed that door to protect me, to protect my life, because God had a plan for my life. And if you had asked me back then, 25 years ago, would I be sitting here doing these podcasts today? The answer would have been a very soft but firm no, because I was and am an introvert who practices being an extrovert, okay? I would not be sitting in this seat if you had asked me this 25 years ago, but God had a plan for my life. And so here I am today, walking blind. Now, think about your own life. Remember that job you didn't get, that relationship that ended, that opportunity that slipped through your fingers. At the time, it may have felt like a loss, but looking back, wasn't it God protecting you or making back? Wasn't it God protecting you or making room for something better? For me, I can look back at roles I thought I wanted, opportunities I thought I couldn't live without. And now I thank God for not letting me have them. Because if the divine had, I'd be stuck, absolutely stuck. Stuck in places that would have kept me unaligned and operating beneath my purpose. So, Seeds, let me ask you this, and these are some reflection questions that you might want to write down. Joining us for the first time and are still listening, your seeds now too. So these questions are also for you. Write them down. I want you to reflect on these questions. So grab a pen and paper. Now, ask yourself, do you see the moments in your life as failures, or as redirections? Do you see any moments in your life as failures or redirections? And then, two, if every no was God's way of saying, not here, not now, not this, but something better is on the way? What if every no was God's way? What if every no was God saying that? Write those no's down. And then what if that thing that you're fighting so hard for, but it's not happening? It's actually a divine pivot. What if it's a divine pivot? Okay. Let me give you 4 simple steps on how to pivot like a pro. Okay. If you pivot like a pro, you'll be fine. Let's break it down. Pause and pray. Number 1, take a breath. Ask God, what's the lesson here? When you're in that situation, ask God, what is the lesson? What are you trying to show me? What are you trying to teach me? Pause and pray. Number 2, find the feedback. Look at your situation. I mean, really look at your situation in all of its depth. The good, what is this situation teaching me? Be very honest with yourself, because if you can't be honest with yourself, you risk your knowing. You risk your deliverance. You risk your future success. So be honest with yourself. If you have truth tellers in your life, listen to them. Your life, listen to them. Your truth tellers, not your entourage or those validators. I talk about these types of people in Watering the Seed podcast episodes 12 and 13, titled The Truth Teller Part 1 and Part 2. Okay? And then number 3, move forward in faith. Move forward in faith. When you do this, you're not stuck. You're letting God DJ your destiny. And then lastly, affirm this. I'm not stuck. I'm being steered. I'm being steered. Affirm that. And just for future, here are a few more reflection questions. And again, I'd like for you to write these down, because reflecting is important, because it allows us to open our minds and broaden our perspective. Open our minds and broaden our perspectives about our own situations. And maybe you'll be able to help someone else in return. But write these reflection questions down, and then I want you to spend some time this week focusing on them. When was the last time I thought I failed, but it turned out to be God protecting or redirecting me? That's number 1. Write that down. And then number 2, how do I usually respond to closed doors in frustration or in faith? How do I do that? Is it in frustration or is it in faith? Number 3, am I willing to let God hold the auxiliary cord in my life, even when the route doesn't make sense to me? That's really tough for a lot of us. It was really tough for me, because I had all these plans. I've started a couple businesses that didn't. I've started a couple businesses that didn't go well, and I had all the answers. I just knew this business would be successful, and it didn't work out that way. Okay, God was rerouting me, redirecting me. So ask yourself, willing to let God hold the auxiliary cord in my life, even when the route doesn't make sense to me. Number 4, what areas of my life need more resilience? And what areas need more surrender? Surrendering is very hard for some of us. Again, is very hard for some of us. Again, it was for me because that business, I just held on and held on and held on for years while it didn't make money, but I was putting my heart and soul into it, just knowing that this was what I needed to do for my family, for my legacy. And what areas need more surrender? Focus on that and focus on how to surrender. And number 5, how can I reframe a current setback into an opportunity for redirection? Which is what I had to do, but I had to exercise resilience, but also surrender because God was rerouting me and redirecting. Okay. So number 5, again, how can I reframe a current setback? Okay. Into an opportunity. Questions into your week, journal them, pray on them, and let them guide your perspective. I want you to start shifting your language too. Instead of saying I failed, say I was redirected. Instead of saying I lost, say God rerouted me. Because when you let God hold the auxiliary cord, you stop forcing the wrong tracks. You stop forcing the wrong tracks and you start vibing with his perfect playlist. How about that? I have a few more affirmations also. So write these down and speak more affirmations also. So write these down and speak them out loud whenever you feel discouraged. Remember, your detours are divine and God's playlist always hits right on time. So write these down. Number 1, I don't fail. God reroutes me. Preparation. Remember, that accident could have ended my life, but that closed door protected me so that I would have the next 25 plus years to prepare and align with the divine, divine's purpose for my life. Okay? So every closed door is protection and preparation. Number 3, God's plan is bigger than my disappointment. God's plan is bigger than your disappointment, seeds. Number 4, I choose resilience when I fall and faith when I'm redirected. I choose resilience when I fall and faith when I'm redirected. And then lastly, I release control because God's got the auxiliary cord. God has the power cord. Bam. Seeds. God has the auxiliary cord. It's the power cord. So he gives us the power to choose, to make our own choices. But when choices aren't in alignment with what God has for our lives, if those choices are going to do harm to us, he will plug in his auxiliary cord and reroute those choices. It's protection. So here's the takeaway. Here's the takeaway, seeds. Life isn't about failure. It's about faith. Every so-called setback is either fuel for resilience or proof of God's redirection. And honestly, it's both. It's both. You're not losing. You're learning. You're being rerouted. Next time a plan falls through, don't call it failure. Call it God saying, let me drive. I've got the auxiliary cord. Thank you for tuning in to Watering the Seed. If this blessed you, share it with someone who needs encouragement today. And remember, your detours are divine. Yeah. Your detours are divine. Yes, they're divinely ordered. Trust the redirection. I love you, seeds, each and every one of you, my newcomers, my old heads. I love you all. Keep watering, keep pivoting, and trust God with that auxiliary.